What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Dedicated to the Craft, your virtual safe space. Beer lovers, non-beer lovers alike, let's have a good time. On today's episode, we are going to bring in a couple of good friends to the San Diego community. But first, I want to bring in my co-host for today's show, Double C, the Godfather himself, Mr. Colby Chandler. What up? How's it going, sir?
You know, just still chilling at the house.
The Corona stash. It's looking good. It's coming in full and strong, and I'm intimidated.
Shaving. Well, you should be. Look at yours.
Yeah. No, look at yours.
You just started yours yesterday, though, right?
A few minutes ago. A few minutes ago. Hey, let's. This is going to be a fun one today. We're bringing in a couple of buddies of yours. My first time chatting with them, but it's going to be a great conversation. I hope everybody brought some alcoholic beverage to partake in. So let's get it started. First off, you know her from 91X, and she's also the music director there, Miss Hilary Chambers. Hi.
Hi, guys.
Hey, what's up?
How you doing? Actually, Hilary Doneux now. I got married, I guess.
Oh, my God. Is this the first time you're not? Oh, my. This is great. On our show. You're not.
No, I've for a while.
All right. And Hilary, thank you for joining. And as well, we have a foodie and funny man, Mr. Chuy Johnson.
No pressure now, huh? Hi, guys.
Hey, what's up, dude?
Did I get your last name right?
Yes. I did get married too. The only thing that changed is she said yes, and that was kind of a shock.
Hey, congrats, man! Congrats.
Somebody asked me where I got my suit for my wedding, and it was actually like $30 suit off online. So,
wow, that's a steal. That's way more than I paid for mine.
Yep.
I'm just happy somebody said yes to me, so that's good. Hey, well, welcome to the show, the three of you. Cheers. Let's see what we got in our glasses here. I got a nice little rye lager. Oh, there you go. Slipping that grunion into that mix, Colby.
Grunion.
Oh, a nice little glass of wine for Mr. And then Hilary is sipping on some Skullman. Well,
it's a hoppy kind of night.
Yeah, look, we're getting it all done. Hey, so times are crazy. But before we get into how loony these times actually are, for everybody listening in virtually on YouTube, why don't we kind of give everybody a nice little synopsis about what you do and how you got there? Hilary, we can start with you. Tell us a little bit about what you do and kind of how you got there, how you went from being on Anteater Radio to what you're doing now.
Oh, yeah, look at you. So I am, like you said, the music director at 91X, which is a modern rock station here in San Diego, alternative station. 91X has been on the air since 1983. I have been there off and on since 1997. And I got there because I always have loved music and loved radio. Grew up listening to some iconic radio stations. And so I just got an internship when I started college at UC Irvine, go Anteaters, at a radio station in Long Beach called KNAC. And I also worked at the college radio station there. And I just worked my way up and have been in San Diego too since 97. And I help program all the music you hear on 91X, help choose the music. I have a show, so I'm on the air middays, Monday through Friday from 10 to 3. And then I host a 2-hour reggae show every Sunday morning because I'm a lifelong Bob Marley and reggae fan. So that's called Church of Bob. I do that too. And I'm a mom, and I have a 13-year-old and 2 stepsons, and hanging in there with this quarantine, man. It's weird.
Yeah, it's a little nutty out there. And it's affecting, I think, everybody here in your respective industry. It's getting a little, it's rocked the boat. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. Mr. Chuy Johnson, my friend, you also you started in music. You started as a music journalist. Tell everybody how you went from that to being a foodie, a food critic for San Diego Magazine, Food Network, Guys Grocery Games, all that stuff. How'd you get there?
Well, I think it was a bunch of a series of missteps out of desperation. I mean, it was, I slept my way to the middle, really. That's what it was. I don't know how I got here, to be quite honest with you. I really don't. You know, I was a music writer. I was the editor for Slam magazine way back in the day. It was a music magazine in San Diego. I had an underground music show called Fox Rocks in San Diego, where they let me go on the noon news with anchors with perfect hair and beautiful veneers. And they would let me bring peaches and TV on the radio and the Buzzcocks into the corner of this news studio.
Awesome.
And it was crazy. It was crazy. We were able to do it for 6 years. And then 2008 hit, and I was actually the pregame host for a San Diego Padres show, which was terrible. And I was absolutely at fault. And then, you know, the economy collapsed. And I had to take a job. I mean, I lost 2/3 of my income overnight. I had to take a job at a fancy magazine. And they said, you know, it was one of those where skinny women who need food on the cover. And they said, look, man, you're going to have to write about food. What do you know about food? And I'm like, in my head, you know, I was like, screw food. I don't want to write about food. I really don't. I thought it was a pretentious thing that people talked about with soft sweaters around an Aspen timeshare. You know, and I was like, I write about jazz and punk, and this is not, you know, me, but that's fine. I need a job desperately. So the words that came out of my mouth were, yes, please, God damn, give me a job. And I studied food, and I studied food, and I fell in love with food. You know, there's so much history, science, culture, religion, everything, ecology, agriculture, everything goes through food. And so I just kept on doing it. And, you know, I filled out a little demo tape, and Food Network called me. And they were like, we're going to give you a show. And I'm like, wow, this is a terrible decision on your part, but let's do it. And we did it for a year, kind of became a cult hit. I got canned. The show got canceled. And then they introduced me to Guy Fieri, and I've been on Guy's Grocery Games for 6 years as a, you know, part-time player.
Yeah, that's where a lot of people know you from, right? You're a regular judge on that show. It's rad. I like the concept. It's wild, and Guy's quite the character. You're pretty funny yourself, my friend. Since you and I understand that you and Hilary and you guys crossed paths somewhere along the lines, or were you just
Casbah 1,000 times? Maybe?
Oh, yeah. And I think, I mean, like, I have a million friends that were on Fox Rocks back in the day with you, and we used to, you know, tape it on our VCR because it was on so late at night sometimes.
I'll Google that.
I think it was on, like, when is everyone gonna be asleep? Let's put that show on then. That's a great idea. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, having that show on at that time, there was no iTunes. There was no. I mean, we had 91X, and we had that was it. 91X. We had Fox Rocks. I didn't name the show, by the way, which is the worst name of a show ever. It rhymed, and they spelled rocks with an X.
Yeah, I saw that. It was really cool for that time.
Yeah, the only people that can do that are hip hop bands and heavy metal, and I wasn't neither one, you know.
And then one of the X lines is in the shape of a lightning bolt or something like that. I'm sure something like that happened, right? Oh man, well,
Padres was the first time I think I met you, Troy.
The Padres?
Yeah. When you were, I think, I swear we did an interview together back in those days.
Oh God, you know, it was. Well, I mean, those 2 years.
We were getting a relationship with the Padres right then, you know, and starting to move into the stadium and all that kind of good stuff. So I think that's probably what it was for. And beer dinners, I've done the beer dinners at the stadium and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they basically had some extra ad dollars because the Padres had done really well for 2 years. And they were like, why don't we do a pregame show of a pregame show? Because everybody needs 7.5 hours of foreplay for baseball. You know, I mean, we did whatever we could with it, you know? Yeah, it's fun.
It sounds fun, but, you know, for the amount of time that you've invested in Hilary in music and Troy in music and now in food, the climate has changed faster than ever. I mean, this thing is changing exponentially, and I guess what I've always been curious, especially in the music space. I'm more of the generation of streamers, right? Radio was a very small part in of my musical life. If I tuned into radio, it was KPBS or something like that to listen to the news, and I rarely would tune in for music. And I know that I'm not alone in that. So how have you had to navigate through consumer choice and the availability of music, it's been so facilitated?
Yeah, it has been crazy, and I feel really lucky to have gotten into radio when I did. I originally started in the early '90s when it was still a huge deal, and I listened like crazy. I grew up listening to K-Rock and KNAC and KXLU and some iconic radio stations. And that was where you got all kinds of new music and you got your information about what was going on. And it has changed tremendously over the years. And I think, I can only really speak for 91X because I've worked for some other stations and they're not always trying to break new music or, be on the cutting edge. And we have accepted that. Of course, we're not stupid. We know that people have like a million choices now of where to get new music and where to get their music in general. And I think what 91X has done is kind of pivoted where for a long time we were always aimed really young. Like our listener was like 18 to 24, 18 to 34. And and now we're targeting a little bit older. And part of that, I think, has to do with the fact that 91X has been in San Diego since 1983. And we have such a history here and so many listeners who feel really connected to us, which is a huge blessing. But we're kind of more realizing that we're talking to mostly them now because it is older people who are still listening to the radio. I say older, I'm 46, but like, myself and like, maybe a decade below me and then, up on as far as you want to go. But the younger generation, yeah, we get it. They're not going to the radio as their first choice, maybe not their second or third, but we still want to be engaging and
right.
And so we've also pivoted, I think, to trying to be more about the San Diego lifestyle and music in town and shows and concerts rather than, just always breaking new music because we know that people aren't using us for that,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That lifestyle component, as soon as you can tap into it or have some sort of definition as to what that might be, it makes the experience a lot better for anyone tuning in, right? Because it's a little bit more intimate at that point.
Yeah, we try to be. I mean, we are local. We're locally owned. We are truly independent. My general manager
yeah,
the station, and he's in our building in Serrano Valley every day, and he's awesome, and he'll drink beer with us anytime. And so we're super local, and a lot of the people in our staff have been with 91X forever or have been San Diego residents forever. And so we really can speak to what's happening here. And, instead of, streaming services are great, but they're not going to talk to you about who's playing the Casbah tomorrow night,
Yeah, right.
And what happened at OB Pier yesterday. And that's something we, we'll always be able to offer and always have. So
that's really rad. That's really
kind
rad.
of like a friend at a house party who just has a good playlist that's playing, entertaining you, right? I mean, 91X was, it's like the first place you ever had sex. The first place you ever heard the Smiths, the first place you ever heard Echo and the Bunnymen, right? That emotion there. And it's Hilary. She's right there. I see her in San Diego, knows my town,
Thank you, Troy. Yeah, that's what we try to do.
One of the things that has struck me as interesting, and I know Colby, we've talked about this a lot, is when you think about particularly pairing, because Colby does a lot of beer pairings, I do a lot of beer dinners and stuff like that, and we kind of get narrowed in on this idea that you can only pair ingestible things with, I guess, buccal ingestion with other things that you can eat or drink, but we had an interesting conversation on the first episode of the show about music pairing, and it was kind of something interesting to think about. I don't know what Troy and Colby think about this one, about pairing music to your experience, like tying that into what you're eating, tying it into what you're drinking, and how a certain dish can be enhanced by a good wine or good beer. The playlist also enhances something. We just don't talk about it as much,
Yeah, yacht rock with something pineapple-y. You know, I mean, whatever funeral song you want to play with Jägermeister, you know, because you're dead, you're dying. Like if you're over 25, you're in the morgue. But I mean, you know, yeah, it is fun. I mean, it's all that emotional experience. I mean, beer, food, wine, music. You know, I mean, it is a part of that emotional experience. Everybody's got a sense memory with taste. Everybody's got a sense memory with music. You know, I would say put poetry in there because I'm a poetry minor, but that'd be at a terrible party. You know,
a lot of that. There's a lot of that going on, which is cool. The thing also is it's one of the aspects in our dining experience that doesn't get a lot of attention. Maybe you're in an Italian restaurant and they put on some authentic Italian music so that you can kind of feel like you're there, whatever the case. Chili's has whatever. What do you put on when you're alone in your house and you want to kind of set the mood? And for instance, what's a dish that you already can think of? Oh, I would put this on if I'm eating or drinking this.
I want to hear Hilary's answer to this.
Yeah, I can think of one, and it seems very obvious for San Diego, but like a grilled fish or grilled chicken taco with some pineapple salsa, a great light crisp Pilsner, and some music. That to me is like a no-brainer. And San Diego.
That does sound pretty good, actually. Yeah. That sounds relaxing.
Right?
Yeah, that sounds.
Yeah.
You got to remember the beer and music have been around a long time, right? I mean, they've been comforting to us humans since the beginning, for the most part. And there's a reason there's so many songs made about beer. Mm-hmm. And I think the music industry mimics the craft brew industry in a lot of ways. From, you know, small little indie musicians to, you know, getting on a big label to, you know, making a career out of it and being relevant, you know, throughout that career, and going back to kind of what Troy was saying about memory and how those two kind of fit together. You know, it's definitely the same for both.
Yeah, in the restaurant world too. I mean, you start with, you know, your Sub Pop is that mom and pop down the street doing bone marrow, you know, or whatever it is. You know, that tiny little bistro that's, you know, surviving on pocket change and, you know, and cashing out the 401k, you know, and then you go into Ruth's Chris and, you know, CPK, and you're talking about, you know, Universal Records. You're talking about, you know, Capitol Records. You're talking about the big guys.
Yeah.
There's that indie to not so indie, and all of them have their beautiful stuff too. You know, I'm not saying that indie's the only way to go.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I love a Cheesecake Factory 700 menu every once in a while.
Well, they all have fans. They didn't, they wouldn't be around.
Exactly.
Right. And you know what? There's something to be said about those little indulgences in those places that you wouldn't be caught. You wouldn't go public saying that you were sitting in an X restaurant or listening to X album. It's those sweet little guilty pleasures that you indulge in because they mean something to you, right? And the fact of the matter is that anything that excites the senses is going to get personal at some point. And once it starts getting personal, it's really beyond your control. It's about an emotional trigger, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I will tell you this in terms of music and restaurants, there have been multiple studies that have shown the type of music that you play at a restaurant will affect the amount of buying that goes on. Classical music, I believe, will increase sales of alcohol. So will club music. You know, fast, loud music will get people to leave or not stay quite as long. So, and in a restaurant, you need people not to stay too long. You need to what they call turnover table. Right. You need to turn over table. If you play a loud, a kind of aggressive music, people tend to leave. That's why CPK, they have a color theory too. White, black, and yellow are psychologically proven to agitate your eyes, agitate your senses, so that people will not only stay there for so long before they move on, so that you can sell more food and more booze to other people.
You know, there's a great local restaurant that I think is a good example of that, but they do it so well, and it kind of doesn't make any sense when you say it out loud, but when you go experience it, it's one of my favorite restaurants. Kindred, you know.
Yes, Kindred.
Really? Okay, I didn't even know.
Dude, so Kindred, it's in South Park. It is a vegan restaurant. It is impeccably decorated. It has an incredible cocktail program. It has great beers on tap. But they incredible vegan food. My husband is a lifelong steak lover, meat eater, and he loves to eat at Kindred. It is so good. But they play like black metal music, like
just Swedish.
So gnarly, yeah. And
morbid.
The bathrooms are painted black, and they have framed pictures of kittens playing like flying bees, and it is
God, that's
so
hardcore.
bad. They do it so well, but like you don't usually think vegan food and amazing cocktails and beers and
super
metal,
super courteous, and everyone's very polite, and no elbows on the table, but we're playing just morbid death rock about Lucifer. And
a lot of bands, when they come to San Diego, a lot of bands will eat there. AFI, Davey Havoc is a huge fan.
I'm sure.
Yeah, they love it.
I just want to hang out with the owner. He sounds like awesome. He sounds like somebody to hang out with.
Great.
Yeah,
he's great. Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a place that I need to visit.
You haven't been there yet? Oh, it's the best.
I might have been drunk. Look, I've been so many places drunk, and I have to ask. I have to ask my wife if we've been there. That's kind of how it goes. We like to
pink wallpaper and a demon head.
Yeah.
And a 7-foot black demon head, which looks like a meme.
Yeah.
And then pink wallpaper and kind of like muted death metal, not totally loud, but
it sounds amazing. It sounds amazing, and I'm going to send you both pictures when I go. It sounds like a rocker's version of like the Ryan Gosling bathroom. Like you should just go to take a selfie there, and then you can just bounce.
No, you gotta eat the food. You gotta.
Oh, that's awesome, Hilary. You said I was reading some of your interviews and stuff, and you said something that I really loved, and it was a few years back when you were doing the punk rock. What was it called? I forgot what the festival was, but it was a Scallywag, the Scallywag, and I should have known that. I didn't go, but I wanted to. And you said punk rock and beer go together like San Diego and sunshine. Oh. And I really love that sentiment. And what has been your experience living in San Diego and meeting so many different rock stars and just feeding off that energy? What it's been like for you to be in a craft beer capital at the same time? And how has craft kind of bled into what your passions are?
Well, as far as being here and being lucky enough to live in San Diego, where the craft beer scene is so vibrant and thriving and innovative, it just makes me feel super proud. Like when we, at 91X, we do a lot with local brewers. We have a segment every Friday morning called Beer for Breakfast. So we always have brewers in our building, and oftentimes they will bring us delicious beers. So when we have artists come through and bands, whether it's at a festival like Scallywag, and we've got a keg of some great local beer backstage to share with the bands, or it's bands coming into the studio for an interview or whatever, it's awesome because I feel so proud to be able to turn them on to like cool, tiny little breweries, and oh my God, you got to try this, you got to try that, and they get so stoked most of the time. So yeah, I feel super grateful for that and very proud of it. Yeah.
I know that Colby took you on a little nice tour of our establishment in Miramar. Yeah. Talk a little bit about that, Colby. How was and Hilary about that tour de brewery and sipping on some good old Grinner.
That's right. Go ahead, Colby.
Oh, you always like showing people around your house. You know what I mean? So it's one of the fun things that I get to do on a pretty regular basis. But I mean, I go back with Hilary a long ways. How long has Beer for Breakfast been on 91X?
It's been a long time. A long time. It's changed a little bit, evolved.
15 years?
Yeah, maybe.
Was it Tommy that was on it?
Uh-huh.
Right? Because I was on those shows way back in the day. That's where I first saw you around. And then Garrett.
Yeah.
Garrett too, with all his Beer for Breakfast, and then the new group with Paul and Danielle, right? So that's a great show. I'd like to thank 91X for doing that show. It's done a lot for the brewing community over the years, I think.
Oh, that's awesome. And shout out to Danielle too, who spearheads most of it, and Marty.
So rad. The two of them together.
Yeah.
Yeah, the two of them are so rad.
It was so fun getting to tour, because I've obviously, well, not obviously, but I've been to the Miramar Ballast Point to eat and to drink, and just as a customer, you know,
right?
To get to go backstage with Colby Chandler, are you kidding me? It was, I mean, I felt like I'm getting the rock star backstage tour. It was awesome, and I felt like every corner we turned, I was like this,
yeah, I know,
amazing,
getting awestruck.
Yeah, it was so cool. It was fascinating. We got to go into the lab and meet a doctor who's doing lab experiments.
Yeah, straight up doctor.
Yeah, she really was. She was awesome.
People sleep on that. People sleep on the fact that that our establishment is, and I think it's because there's so many small breweries in San Diego, that you can spend your whole lifetime of good drinking at these small establishments and not necessarily step into a place that is of that magnitude. And once it's at that magnitude, it starts to kind of reconfigure what you think about what goes into to brewing beer. So I'm glad that you got to experience that. Troy, have you been to Miramar?
I have been to Miramar, and I've been to Little Italy, and I've been to every single one of your breweries that you ever have ever done. Scripps Ranch. Is it Scripps Ranch, Miramar? That the original one, is that still, that's something else now, right?
Colby knows all about that.
Well, the original one was Home Brew Mart.
Right.
And then Scripps was right afterward, and now they are throwing down some kombucha, right?
Right.
Yeah. I love Scripps Ranch. That was my favorite one, because Scripps Ranch, I grew up there. Sleepy suburbia. I mean, you was like, hey, honey, what do you want to have for dinner tonight? Chili's or Applebee's, and all of a sudden there was this little upstart brewery back then. I mean, it was, when Yusef was there, and it was just craft beer in the middle of suburbia, and all these eucalyptus trees and these, business parks. And you're like, what is this, man? Like, there's something cool in the burbs.
Yeah, you hear about things like the energy that kind of seeps out of the walls at certain establishments, right? You get it from your favorite bar, maybe favorite restaurant. Scripps Ranch had that. You felt it when you walked in. Before you talked to anybody, before you even really knew what was going on, you're like, all right, there's this energy in here that is very, very chill, and I want to stay here and get drunk.
Because everybody was so desperate for anything to do too. I mean, you guys had a really good product, but everybody was desperate. It was a perfect storm. I have a great product, and you are super desperate and bored. Awesome.
Scripps was a little bit different for me, because I was running Home Brew Mart and brewing down at the original location. We were doing 6,000 barrels a year out of Home Brew Mart, which was pretty nuts at the time.
Yeah, that's atrocious.
And when Scripps came online, when they were building and everything, it took up so much attention that we just kind of built our own little island down there, and kind of did our own little renaissance, I think, at the time. And
do I hear some resentment in the voice? Oh, fantastic.
100% no, man, because that's where I thrive. I love building the recipes and just like you do cooking.
Yeah. I cut my teeth at Scripps.
And then I love when you do a new beer, I think with a chef and a brewer, both of them have to like sharing. You have to like making the food, you have to like making the beer, but half the fun is giving it to people and watching their reactions.
Right.
And kind of seeing that light bulb go off a little bit. It's fun when you get a pigtail hooked up to a fresh bright tank, Jeff, and you drink the beer right out of that, right, Hilary?
It ruins you. It kind of ruins you.
I got to
It
do that
ruins
with
you in the
Troy.
best way possible.
It was so good, so fun.
Super fresh.
Troy, I know you're not the biggest beer drinker. I texted Greg, Mr. Cook, yesterday, and I was like, "Hey, yo, your boy Troy only likes your stuff, man. I'm gonna talk to him tomorrow." And it was funny. We had a little laugh, but I don't think that you've had one of our beers off the Bright Tank in a long time. I think you need to swing by, hook up that pigtail, and have your senses
need to come back
blown.
to the Bright Tank. A, I think they're on drugs, but B, that sounds amazing. Yes, absolutely. I have been a craft beer fan forever, although I will say, like, at some points, I'm like,
no.
Yeah, I love my craft beer, but then I'm like, I drink like 5 of them, and I'm like, man, all right. That was a little too much flavor for me, you know? So I mix it up. I have my lagers, I have my wine, I have my, I occasionally do water. It's this new thing that just came out. It's a craft.
We do too, but we turn it into beer at the end.
Okay, that's true.
Yeah.
But Ballast Point, I mean, you guys, I mean, Sculpin was basically, okay, there's one song, and I hate to say this now because everybody's gonna be like, you're such a predictable, you know, bro. But Pearl Jam's Alive came out when I was 18.
Oh my God.
I know. But I was 18 years old. I was impressionable. I thought I was angsty for the right reasons, and it turned out to be the wrong reasons. And that song defined my like late adolescence. And Sculpin was one of those too. That was a defining moment in my life for craft beer. Stone as well, and Sierra Nevada, because I went to Chico State.
Oh, there you go. So you're just a party animal. I think though that over the course,
a lot of people forget that Stone was the first brewery in San Diego to bottle and put where it was made, San Diego, California.
Huh.
So that really helped a lot of us, you know, and that was Arrogant Bastard.
Mm-hmm.
They taught people about bitterness, whether they liked it or they didn't like it. That's definitely. And that being on the bottle kind of out of the gate and us kind of drafting that in a lot of ways, I mean, that helped out a lot of us.
And it was beautiful because it was kind of playfully taunting. And you go, hey, I can handle this. How dare you question what I can take or not? And then I think I started to like Arrogant Bastard out of pure machismo. I was just like, I can drink this and I'm going to drink it again. And I'm only going to drink this so people can see me drinking it. And after a while, your palate starts to just kind of transform. You start to corrode, you know, some of the taste buds you have there. And it starts to go down rather nicely. The enamel was gone. Yeah, it was a beautiful beer to transition into because everything else after that was weak sauce.
It's like, why am I drinking a beer that's making me thirsty? That's hard for a lot of people to put their palate around, I think, a little bit.
But hey, Troy, I have a question for you, brother, because it's one of the best things that I've ever read, but you said it, and I'm just curious to know what you were talking about when you said it's like eating Morgan Freeman's voice. I immediately went on a deep, long Google search to find out what the hell you were talking about, and I couldn't find it. But please,
dude, I don't know what I'm talking about half the time. I'll tell you that, man.
You said it's like eating Morgan Freeman's voice, but I didn't catch what you were talking about, and I was angry for a few hours. Like I had to go to the room, and I couldn't find out what the hell you were talking about. What is like eating Morgan Freeman's voice?
I'm going to tell you this. I got the least useful college degree in the history. I mean, maybe 700 years. I got a speech communications degree with a poetry minor, and my father cried many tears over that. You know, but I mean, I thought poetry was going to be absolutely useless, but what it did was unlock the power of the metaphor for me. And that's actually, it ended up being a really essential key for me being able to have a semblance of a career. And so while other people would say this burger tastes rich, I'm like, well, what else is rich? Morgan Freeman's voice. It's like eating Morgan Freeman's voice.
I'm going to put that on tasting notes.
Thing in the world I can imagine, right? You know,
yeah.
What's in at home?
That's what I'm going to use. You get a little lavender. You get a little bit of a crisp bitterness on the back end, but really it's a bouquet of Morgan Freeman's voice is what you really get there. And I'm going to start using it. I'm really going to start implementing that because it was just amazing.
That should be in the description of like Sea Monster or Victory at Sea or something.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Henry Westminster. Look, hey Troy, your Twitter is hilarious, brother. It's very funny. I spent way too many hours on your Twitter feed. Your quarantine, what is it? Quarantine Troy, whatever your Twitter account is right now is full of the best one-liners that I've ever read, and they're so true. It's funny because it's true, kind of deal.
Well, you know, at the end of the day, like I fell in love with Twitter humor because of Steve Martin. I did not get Twitter. I wasn't good at Twitter. I sucked at Twitter. I didn't understand it. I'm like, why can't you write 17,000 words on this thing? All right, I have a book to write. And they're like, I'm like, no, you have to write it in 140 characters, which is now 240, whatever. You know, and then Steve Martin said some of the best comedians in the world are actually doing great work over on Twitter. And I paid attention to that. I went over there, found all the funniest people I possibly could on Twitter. And I've always liked humor writing, man. David Sedaris, David Rakoff, like a bunch of, you know, David Foster Wallace. Some of my favorite writers are humorists. And so that's what I read all day. I read all the day, and then I write that about food. I try to translate that into music first and then food. And
Right.
Twitter just became my outlet. So I think of all this weird shit throughout the day. It's my brain. I ate way too much sugar cereal at too formative of an age.
Fruity Pebbles, nonetheless.
And so my brain just like thinks of this thing. And it's like, I'm like, look, I really need to focus right now, brain. Like it's a pandemic. Like 2/3 of your jobs are gone. TV's not filming. You need to focus. My brain's like, you ever thought this about sugar cereal? And I'm like, God damn it. Brain, stop. You know, and then I just throw it out on Twitter. So then I purge it so I'm an okay human being afterwards.
Yeah, I started cussing at my kid the other day, and my wife got mad. I was like, Troy said it's cool. When I looked up your tweet, and I see it's all right. Everyone's doing it. It was so funny, man. It was so funny. Look, I love what you're doing. Hilary, I know that your job is way more complex than most people give you credit for. Arguably, people that don't necessarily work in that industry. Music director is pretty crazy, right? And you need to tap into a lot of different things.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be, you know, what I do, really what most people see with 91X or here is what I do on the air, which is, you know, play songs, give out information, and I get to be silly. Just like Troy said, it's my outlet oftentimes is on the air saying the weird stuff that pops into my head. But, the music director piece of it is a lot of work and can be stressful, and it's all about finding balance. And I listen to so much new music sometimes that I get in my car when I leave 91X and I just need silence because I can't listen to anything else. Yeah, I mean, you know, deciding which songs we're going to play and which ones we aren't going to play is a constant battle. And, you know, because certain things you love, but you know, other people aren't going to love. And we do have to, you know, we do have to get ratings so we can have advertisers who are willing to pay for the advertising so we can all continue to have our jobs and keep the ratings afloat. So it's, you know, it's always balance and walking that fine line. But I love it. I love it so much. And
yeah. And no, and I really got a better understanding of what you do and a much greater respect for what you do, because I'm a casual consumer that doesn't put a lot of thought into how I get my content sometimes, or how I get my food, or Colby, how I get my beer. And then once you go behind the scenes, you realize that there's such a lot of thought that goes into it. Anywhere from PPM, if anyone knows what that means, to hey, listen, we got to play it often enough for people to like it, and not often enough for people to get sick of it, and this and that. So you're essentially doing a pairing at the same time, right? Like you're pairing people's likes with, you know, the time of day or the frequency. Colby does pairings with beer and food, and then Troy does pairings with food and food, and him and food, and wine and food, and all this stuff and food. So we're all kind of playing a pairing game, which is which is pretty complex. But if you're like one of us that really loves what they do, it takes the arduousness out of it, and with that, I'm going to bring on our sous chef, Chuy Hernandez, who does a phenomenal job with Colby and myself, pairing different dishes at Miramar.
Everybody.
What's up, carnal?
Hi, guys.
Hi, Chewy.
Hi
How
there.
you doing, my friend?
Troy, cheers.
You guys, Chewy,
Cheers,
hold
my man.
on, wait. A moment of silence for this.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh.
It is one of the most beautiful sounds in the world.
Oh my God, it's It's like the of alcoholics. Manta Ray is what I'm sipping on, and we're doing that very specifically because one of the segments on the show that we have from time to time, Chuy will write a recipe for all the listeners that are tuning in. So during these times of quarantine and social distancing, they have something that they can do at home. They can sharpen their culinary skills. They can go to the grocery store and pair it with one of the beers that we find or that we recommend. That's flagship, that's on the shelf, so that you can kind of do the beer pairing that you listen to on the show at home. And it makes you a better chef. It makes you a better taster, because I think we can all agree that the best thing that you can equip yourself with is a knowledge of what you like, your senses, whether it's audible, whether it's what you like to eat, whether it's what you like to drink, it's what you like to pair with things, because you're going out there and hopefully soon you're going to go out there to restaurants and bars and pay top dollar for it anyways. You might as well order what you like. So what we did, yeah, we gotta eat, man. And then I'm gonna as soon as we get into the pairing, I'm gonna let Colby be kind of a star on the magic, because he's a much better pair than I am. But before that, Chuy's gonna present what he wrote for this week's episode, and it kind of has to do with you, Troy, because we took one of your guilty pleasures and we just tried to throw a culinary spin on it. So this is our rendition of a Jack in the Box ultimate cheeseburger.
That's right. Yes. Well, yes, guys. Well, today's recipe, it's gonna be the famous ultimate Ballast Point double cheeseburger. So we're gonna use whatever we have in home available. So it's nothing better than a hoppy IPA to enjoy a delicious burger like Manta Ray Double IPA. It's I don't know, man. It's something awesome about it. The fatty, the juicy. It stands really good alongside with the intense flavors of the Ballast Point Manta Ray Double IPA. What do you guys think about it?
Mm-hmm.
I think I need 2 right now, because the ultimate cheeseburger has fallen off my star chart of some of the best guilty pleasures of all time. Now that you mentioned Kobe, yeah, I think if you're gonna impersonate a lowbrow yet exquisite burger that's simply cheese and meat, I think that sounds like the best way to do it, sir. Nice work.
Yeah.
We had you in mind, my friend. And I grew up in the Imperial Valley, from a small town, Calexico, where we have the most Jack in the Boxes per capita, I think, on the planet. And so it's like Starbucks, but it's just Jack in the Boxes. So when I saw that it was your guilty pleasure, I was like, yes.
Look, here's the thing. There are a lot of big burgers out there. They're beautiful burgers, and you can do really fancy things with burgers. And then sometimes you just want bread, meat, and cheese. Like, that's it. Like, sometimes I just want to take the cheese and put it in my mouth. Like a candy bar. Then there are other times when I'm refined, but that's not one of them. Nice work.
No,
Colby, how do you think that Manta Ray kind of plays with juicy hamburgers, especially when they're just drenched in cheese like that?
Oh.
Well, first off, I'm not sure what beer doesn't go with the burger, or which cocktail, or which wine, or which tap water.
Air good. Goes good with it.
Air, exactly. But with Manta Ray, you got the 3 things, right? You got 8% alcohol, which I think is perfect alcohol for double IPA. It's just enough to get you into the double IPA category, but not enough that it gets kind of any booziness to it at all. Still kind of tastes like normal beer, but that alcohol will help cut the fat of the burger.
Right.
You also got the carbonation, right? The scrubbing bubbles that we've talked about before. That's just a great palate cleanser in between bites. And then, you got the base, the hop flavors. We're using Simcoe and Citra, I believe, in that beer. A lot of two-row, a little bit of Munich, a little bit of wheat. Cali ale yeast, got a gold medal in 2017. So all good reasons to pair it. But you could also go the other direction and get something malty and big, you know, like a Sea Monster or Calico.
Calico
Again,
would be good too.
you got the grilled meats, and as you grill the sugars and the fat, they caramelize just like the barley does when we're roasting it and we're putting it into those darker beers, those red and amber beers. So all good stuff. But I do have a list of things that I was thinking about just to get everybody's mouths watering. Pork grinds, right? Something salty, fatty, sweet, kind of light though, you know. And then salt and pepper. What about just tagging on the fruitiness of the hops, the Simcoe and the Citra, poached pears with foie gras. Cutting
Jesus,
right
we
through
went
it,
Jack
right?
in a Box to Addison. Jesus.
What about fatty shellfish like crab cakes or something like Dungeness crab cakes? You get back to confit duck, baked ham, blue cheese. One of my favorite IPA pairings is carrot cake.
I think I know who in this group knows how to wear an ascot.
No, but I'm willing to learn.
Hillary,
only while I'm in self quarantine. That's the only time I wear an ascot.
When you are indulging in a burger and it's like you're talking packed with juicy, just good grade meat, salty cheese and all that stuff. What is your particular go-to to kind of complement that burger? Is it beer? And if it is, what kind?
Oh yeah, it's a pale ale. I live in PB, so I go to Rockies quite often.
Ooh,
yeah,
solid.
I know.
Now my mouth is watering.
So, and you know that Rocky's beer list is not long. But they always tend to have a really good pale ale on tap, and that's what I get. They're Rocky's burger, a basket of fries, and a pale ale. That's my go-to.
Oh, that is amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Troy.
It's like just lumpy and fatty. It's like a lot of us during quarantine.
exactly.
I don't know about you guys. I got a kettlebell. I'm all right. I'm good. I'm keeping that minimized. All right.
I mean, the Manta Ray, adds all the bitterness that needs the perfect balance, to all the flavors, to get to umami flavors on it. I think it's really good, and because besides all the umami flavors, you got the sweet, you got the sour, you got the salty, and the bitter. So umami, helps a lot. And the burger, the recipe that we share, we didn't add any GMO on it, so it's gonna be perfect with the beer because it's gonna cut the bitterness from the beer is gonna cut perfectly with the fat.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So good.
Right. And then that Swiss cheese, the saltiness of the cheddar cheese. And then I think you call for some Dijon mustard in that bad boy. So there's a little bit of that. I mean, like Colby said, there's no wrong way to it's like a Reese's, right? There's no wrong way to eat a cheeseburger. I guess there is a few. But if you're going to pair it with something, an IPA or a hoppy pale ale, a deep roasty malty beer like Sea Monster, a malt forward beer like Amber, it's almost cheating. It's almost like, hey, I'm going to pair the food with the beer. You can just throw the cheeseburger in anywhere and it's going to work. Here's a question for Troy though, because I know that as far as I'm concerned, you're much more of a wine drinker than I am. So think of an ultimate cheeseburger, and then what wine are you throwing in there? If Colby was throwing in a beer and it was a competition to see what paired best, what wine would he throw at it?
Whatever damn wine you want. As much as I've learned about wine over the years, is you can throw in whatever the hell you want. Although it is a steak at the end of the day. It's a steak with a little bit more cheese on it. You think about that kind of like a Bordelaise sauce. So maybe you do a Zinfandel. You do something with spurs. You do something with spurs, something that kicks right through that and matches up to that meaty flavor because, it's not a fish fillet you're eating here. You need something red. You need something like big. You've already made the decision not to have salad. You're already going down that cascade of a bad making in your life, and keep it going. You know what I mean? Like and I love those bad decisions, man. I mean, come on. The worst, you said there's no bad way to eat a burger. Here's the only way that sucks to eat a burger is when you're like, you know, maybe I should have had a salad. Like, go in and haul.
It hurt. That hurt.
Going for the burger. Don't give me a guilt trip while you're having a burger. Just go and
Own it.
And get the fries with the aioli and the mayonnaise and just do it. That's it.
Oh my God, dude! You know what? You just sold it. I think everybody right now listening to that is gonna do a dramatic flipping of the table if they're eating salad or quinoa or whatever, and they are about to phone in. They're heading to In-N-Out, Jack in the Box, or hitting our recipe.
I like having an expensive wine with non-expensive food. Because it kind of it makes it memorable in a lot of ways. Like I still, tons of pizza dinners with Silver Oak, or you know what I mean, a burger with something good. It's just it's a good way to focus on the wine a little bit more and not be so worried about the pairing. But still, they're both elevating each other, obviously.
I sat down with a sommelier, and you really can pick out flavor notes that go well with things. I mean, and really, red meat does go best with a deep red wine. But the sommelier that was like an advanced sommelier, which a wine expert, and he told me, I'm like, well, I need to do this, I need to do that, and he goes, you don't need to do anything. He's like, if you like White Claw with your, your Chateaubriand, I know, not White Claw. Okay, malt liquor,
White Claw.
Oh my! Look what you did, Troy.
I immediately regret this. Eject.
The beer police.
What did you do?
Okay, wait. No, but he said, so look, man, if you want a Sauvignon Blanc with your Chateaubriand, you want a big, deep tomahawk, and you want a rosé. Who gives a damn? Does it make you happy? Awesome.
I love that. I love that sentiment, and I think with that, we're going to conclude that Chuy, this burger is going to be phenomenal. And please, anybody listening, Troy, Hilary, Colby, try it at home. The recipe will be thrown out there. Go ahead and cook it at home just to see what you think of it. Snap a picture, tag us on it, and let us know what you think, because it means a lot to us.
Cheers to
Colby busting out. Hey, cheers. So we're going to wrap up right now. And before everybody gives out their shout outs, I want to say a big salud to everybody. And we're about to do a yak dog. So just take a swig. Just take a little chug of your beer. Doesn't need to be a beer shot, but cheers, you guys.
Good hanging with you, semi-fine people.
Oh, dude, it was such a pleasure to have you and Hilary on. Colby, you're always, dude, you're my boy. Chuy, carnal, you know what's up.
We actually, I was thinking we're gonna name this burger the Morgan Freeman burger. So.
Oh nice.
Yeah.
Damn good and soft.
We should, yeah.
Spoken. Yeah. Basically, God. Yet it needs to be godlike.
Hilary.
So listen, man, we're gonna wrap up. But before we go, you guys have done so much for the San Diego community throughout the years. You are staples of your particular industries, and you bleed into others. So, Hilary, we'll start with you. Where can people find you? Where can they follow you, and all that jazz?
Thank you so much. By the way, this has been super fun, you guys. So I am on Instagram at 91xHilary. I'm on Twitter at HillaHill. And I'm on Facebook at Hilary Doneux, but I'm not a huge Facebooker. So
good. Heads up on that, Mr. Troy Johnson. I can already tell everybody to go and follow you on Twitter, but where else can people find you?
Right now, what's really important to me is I've shifted to helping the restaurants throughout, the quarantine and the shutdown, and I'm doing all live interviews with restaurants every Friday at 5 p.m. I'm showing my followers into their kitchens and showing how they can help buy takeout and delivery. So it's Instagram at Hey Troy Johnson.
It's awesome. And you're doing such a good job promoting everybody, man. And all of our industries are in need of some love, some nice TLC. So
you can find them in a closet.
Oh yeah. In front of a teepee.
Yeah. You can definitely find me in some remote attic in Ocean Beach, that smell not very nice as the heat goes up.
Hey, well, listen, guys, we're gonna get through this together with people like yourselves at the helm and trying to kind of keep the ship afloat. I think we're gonna be okay. Wash your hands, cover your mouths, do all that stuff, but don't forget about the local businesses that surround you that are really caring about you. And I think we always got to remember that there's a lot of hardworking people out there that are in pretty tough times. So with that, I want to say thank you again, Colby, Chuy, Hilary, Troy. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you so much to Troy and Hilary, two pillars of the San Diego community. Please give Hilary a listen and give Troy your recommendations and following on Twitter. A big up to Colby Chandler, the Godfather. Always a pleasure having him. And Chuy, always bringing the heat. The recipe is phenomenal. Please try it at home. Send us your pictures and tag us on it. Follow us on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. Tune in to us and follow on YouTube. Give us a big thumbs up. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.